What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto x Fate Harem? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Saber, what would you like to eat? A handsome spiky-haired blonde was currently rummaging through the fridge of his small apartment. A blonde girl in a blue skirt and white shirt was sitting at the table, utensils in hand. "It does not matter to me, master," was the stoic reply of the girl. Saber, you're horribly unfussy as to what you enjoy eating, aren't you?" The blonde man waved a tanned arm in the air. "Do you really have no preference? Whatever master cooks is delicious though," was the other blonde's statement, with a small amount of drool dripping from her mouth at the thought of her master's cooking. "I cannot decide between all of those delicacies. Thank you. I never thought that I would be praised for my cooking skills, of all things." Naruto chuckled, clearly amused by his servant's gluttony. "I must say, you are a remarkable cook, master." A nostalgic, sad look came across the apron-clad man's face. Legacy of a misspent youth. "I had to learn how to cook for myself because I lived alone for such a long time." Both master and servant were silent for a while, before the cheerful mood and smile returned to the whiskered blonde. "I'll just cook one of everything then." Naruto smiled gently at his servant before turning back to his pantry. "How does that sound? Saber, you're drooling." Thank you, master. Not a problem. This is what friends do for each other, The blue and white clad girl looked down at her hands, which were clasping a tri-pronged kunai. "Yes, friends." 3 weeks later, Naruto, we're arriving. The blue-eyed shinobi turned magus felt a small hand rest gently on his shoulder before returning to its former position. Stupid son. Naruto yawned and stretched, before rubbing the sleepiness out of his eyes, all the while cursing under his breath about how he would destroy that evil, depraved, annoying light. And after waking up fully, realizing that he was in an airplane seat and said light was from the nearby window. "Naruto, you're making a scene." Saber sighed, clearly put out by the antics of her master. Not. A small smile played its way across Saber's lips. "Yes you are." "No. Naruto, you're making a scene now." The well-dressed magus turned to see his fellow passengers stare at him curiously. He grinned his famous foxy grin. Whoops. It was a game that they played on occasion, to see who was more, in Naruto's words, mule-headed and stubborn, than the other. Naruto almost always lost though. He claimed that he couldn't deny such a cute-face victory, causing Saber to blush and act embarrassed, and then promptly demand for him to cook her food in an attempt to cover up said blush and embarrassment. "Speaking of food, no, Saber, I'm not cooking anything for you tonight. We have to scout out the area first, remember?" The servant sighed and crossed her arms, clearly irritated by the entire situation. "Tomorrow then? Of course." Naruto appeared almost contemplative. "You know, I thought that you would be more off-put by the entire idea of manned flight. The Holy Grail gives me the relevant information that I need to function in modern society." Saber replied curtly. Still though, he chuckled lightly. "You're downright unflappable then. The first time I saw a plane, I damn near crapped my pants." The entire idea is not that unusual. Actually, it is, but we won't go into semantics here. His entire demeanor became serious, more professional. "So we've arrived then. Close to Fuyuki City, then." "Yes." Naruto sighed. "And so, war is upon us once again. Another conflict in a cycle of endless conflicts. But, we will win, Naruto. After all, I am the most excellent of the servant classes, Saber. And you are one of the best masters that I could have had. As long as the innocent don't get hurt by the war." He turned away. "No collateral damage, of course. As for your wish, you're still thinking about that wish, aren't you?" The blonde magus continued. He sighed when he noticed that Saber didn't respond. "So you are then. Just know that no matter the decision, I'll support you every step of the way." Saber folded her hands over her lap. "And I thank you for that. Of course, we are friends, are we not?" "Yes, we are friends." The blonde master smiled. "Well, this is the place then. Our new base of operations, for the time being." It was a lush affair, walled off and containing a garden that was well tended. Walking through the garden, one could observe that there was a house there, a traditional Japanese home that was actually quite large, capable of housing a decent-sized family. Everything was well kept. Emiya Shuru's house. It took me forever to get down all of those seals. Naruto griped. Bounded fields, at least 10 ceiling arrays. This place is a literal fortress now. Nothing gets in if I don't allow it to. He placed a palm on the iron gate, and an array of complex symbols and runes arranged in a circular fashion instantly began to glow, before dying out. The gate swung open. We're here then. 3 weeks after the first servant was summoned, Naruto Uzumaki and servant Saber arrived in Fuyuki City. I must admit, these last few weeks have been relaxing, Saber admitted reluctantly. The blue-eyed blonde sweat dropped. Most of that relaxing was us fighting dead apostles and psychopath magi. It had its highlights though. The servant replied calmly. Even you must admit that. Naruto cracked a grin at that. True. For starters, you aren't acting like a complete ass the way you did anymore. I never did. Saber sulked. A heroic spirit such as myself could never act with such improper decorum. Naruto stared at his servant with a slight twitch in his eyebrow. And I don't believe that I am delusional. He slid open the door, and paused when he beheld the contents of the room. Old man Zell. He muttered flatly. What the hell are you doing here? Zellrech twitched with annoyance from where he was sitting. Can't a teacher greet his student? He picked up a cup of tea that was steaming next to him, and took a sip from it. You know damn well that you don't make random house calls all that often. He leveled a peaceful gaze onto his teacher. May I inquire as to why exactly you are here? The dead apostle ancestor shrugged. I need to talk. About? He waved a hand in dismissal. Not to you. To your servant. Now this got some confusion from Naruto and Saber, who was acquainted with the old vampire through her master. Sadly, she still could not believe that someone as powerful as Kisher Zellrech Schweinord could be as immature as a 5-year-old at times. Then again, one of the strongest people that she knew, her master Naruto, had his fair share of immature moments. Of course, someone able to fight a force of nature head-on was not to be trifled with. Scale level? Naruto inquired. Zellrech made a nonchalant noise. 5 to 7-ish. Naruto raised an eyebrow. That's actually quite serious there. He sighed. Do I have to be present for this entire debacle? It would be better if you did not. The blonde sighed. Well, I do have to get some ingredients for cooking. I'll be leaving now. Naruto, will you be alright on your own? The suited blonde nodded. I'll be perfectly fine. The only other servant that has been summoned so far is Assassin, and I am confident that I can handle him if needed. Then go buy ingredients to cook delicious food with. Zellrech waved cheekily. Naruto sighed and strolled out of the house, leaving behind an old man and a stone-faced spirit. Once he had left, Zellrech spoke. I assume that you wish to know what I want to say to you, correct? That would be a reasonable assumption, yes. Very well then. The master of the second magic sighed. It's about the brat, Naruto? Zellrech smiled, a toothy leer. Ah, so you're fond of him then. Just 3 weeks ago, you refused to call him by name. What changed, I wonder, to allow the cold king to act cordial around her master? Saber blushed slightly and looked away. What I call my master and do with my master is none of your business, even if you are my master's teacher. Is there a point behind this drivel? Actually, yes. Zellrech lost his cheery demeanor. It's more of a request, really. Please don't hurt him, at least, not without good cause. What are you saying? Naruto's devoted to his precious people. Heavily so. It's against every rule in his book to backstab or betray a comrade. And he's fiercely protective of those he considers precious to him, to the point of being suicidal. That boy places no value in his own life. Zellrech's eyes softened a little. I know for a fact that he views you as a partner and friend. Saber sighed a little and closed her eyes. He's a unique being, isn't he? He knows my status as a knight, and yet he refuses to believe that I am anything but human, and barges into one's life, demanding amicable relations. I can safely say that he is a very good friend and partner on the field of battle. Her lips twitched upwards. He is a respectable individual overall, even if his methods in combat are questionable. He has not lied to me, nor ignored me. In fact, he has done his best to interact with me. Naruto has that effect. He changes people, doesn't he? He has all the charisma of a king, with none of the mindset. Saber raised an eyebrow. In battle, when he gets serious, he is terrifying. In normal life, it is strange how such a carefree being can exist, after going through so much. Zelrech was actually serious, for once. I'm worried about him. Lately, he seems more driven, more broken, if you will. As you know, he's been accepting the harder contracts, the ones that are dangerous and sickening. Saber sighed. The one flaw that he has is that he holds no value in his own life. For such a pure soul to believe that he is that worthless is absolutely confounding. Just as you believed that you were not worthy, Zelrech chuckled. It is as I said. Naruto changes people. It is quite inexplicable. Saber sighed. Now, I am unsure as to what I desire. Part of me still longs to make a better past, but the other part of my heart yearns for the future, even if I am fated to have no future. It is maddening. And yet, I have him to thank for that, because even if it was only for a little while. The green-eyed blonde looked out a window and gazed out at the street. I was able to have all of this. More silence. No talking, merely the chattering of men and women on the streets and the roaring that was that of a city of modern civilization. Take care of him, Saber. I would hate to lose a source of amusement, and one of the few people that can put up with me. But most importantly, please save him from himself, from his own conflicting desires. You know that I will. I would have even if you hadn't asked me. She sighed, a sound of utter content and relaxation, as Zelrech got up and walked out the door. He is a better person than most men could ever aspire to be, at any rate. She muttered, continuing to smile, nostalgic, tragic and beautiful. A rustle of fabric, as she got up, dusted off her blue skirt and white blouse. As a knight, a hero, and as a friend, I'll grant my master that prayer of salvation. After all, what kind of servant would I be if I did not? Naruto sighed. It begins, then. Arturia. He threw a manila file onto the small table, where master and servant were situated. Shall we prepare for war then? King of Knights? The servant sighed. You know that I dislike all of this planning. Naruto raised an eyebrow. If you recall, most of our victories in battle were due to superior planning. True. She paused. Have you determined the identities of all of the masters, then? As of 3 hours ago, I was able to uncover our opponents and who we will be fighting, thanks to my trusty network of spies. He smirked. And you say that intel is overrated. Naruto. The data. The shorter blonde stated bluntly, in no mood for banter. Battle was a serious business. Ah, yes. He mentally prepared himself, and Saber rolled her eyes as her master prepared to shift into lecture mode. He really was an outspoken individual. Now, as we all know, there are 7 masters in each Grail War, for 7 classes. 3 of which come from the 3 founding families, the Tasaka, Matu, and Ainsburn. The Magus Association sends 1 representative, and the rest of the masters are determined by the Grail. From what my spies have told me, this lineup of masters should prove to be fairly intimidating. He opened the folder and spread 5 pictures onto the table. These are the ones chosen by the Grail to compete in this war, from what I can determine. The Tasaka family head, Tokiomi Tasaka, is a master. From the Ainsburns, they have contracted an individual known as Kuritsugu Emiya. The Magus Association has sent Kenneth Archibald Elmeloy. Naruto frowned. He's an asshole. Idiots aside, Archibald's student, Waver Velvet, has actually managed to steal his teacher's catalyst and is a competitor. And finally, a priest from the burial agency, amazingly enough. His name is Kirei Kotomine. The Matu master is Karya Matu, but I haven't really been able to get much information on him. The spiky-haired blonde took a few breaths. His servant folded her hands in her laps and winced. Most of this is new. I have never even heard of 3 of these names until today. Magi are secretive and irritating, what can I say? As good as my informants are, they are not omnipotent. Fair enough. How would you rate their levels of danger? Naruto hummed, in deep contemplation. The Elmeloy, I can defeat with extreme ease. Velvet is a young magus, inexperienced. Tasaka is a skilled magus, however, he is predictable, too set in his ways. Really, what it comes down to. Kotomine and Emiya. Personally, I think that Emiya is quite possibly the most dangerous master in this entire war. Saber raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Barring myself, yes. He maintained a completely serious expression, proving that he wasn't kidding when he claimed that Kuritsugu was deadly. The reason for this is because Emiya has a reputation. Naruto's face was hard. Stony-faced wasn't a good enough description to describe his expression. They being the Magus Association, call him The Magus Killer. Reputation? Emiya Kuritsugu, last scion of the Emiya family. Freelance assassin, well known for hunting dead apostles and sealing designates. Notable in the fact that he does not view himself as a magus, and he is damn good at his job. However, the reason why I view him as dangerous is because he reminds me of a blue-eyed, blonde-haired boy, oh so long ago. He scowled. That man is what I could have become. He will do anything to kill his target, anything for the sake of the mission. Saber frowned. You mean then, that he is? Yes. He is similar to me, once upon a time, except for the fact that I would never betray my allies or endanger the innocent right now, though I have in the past. This man, he is what I was, and that is what terrifies me, because that man had a habit of killing innocents and those only vaguely related to his targets in order to kill his target in the first place. I am fairly certain that there has not been a single cowardly trick he has not used in the history of being a mercenary. If he deems a tactic would be enough to kill his opponent or lure them into the open, he would use it regardless of how many people would be caught in the crossfire. The pair, master and servant, sat in silence. Kuritsugu is the most dangerous master. He has backing from the Einsburn, and so, he should be able to procure a catalyst that can summon a servant that is truly exceptional in nature. He is an assassin, a well-trained and skilled one, and most importantly, he is not bound by the rules and regulations of Magi, and he most certainly does not possess the same mindset as one. I see, Saber replied slowly. Can you beat him? Naruto laughed. Of course, in a fair battle. But that man will not fight fair. But I should be able to, even if the odds are against me. He grinned, a predatory and bloodthirsty grin. Besides, I am not a magus either. I am an old soldier, an assassin by upbringing, and I have seen a world at war, and conquered the world. Unless the conditions are truly unfavorable, none of the masters should truly be a threat. Saber nodded. Of course, masters, ordinary humans, should not be able to fight servants head-on. She stated flatly. And if I may say, you are not an ordinary human, by any definition of the word. That's correct. We will win the war, Saber. That is our pact, our promise to one another. I am just saying, and reminding you. Do not underestimate the opponent. Never, ever underestimate the enemy. Remember when you sparred with me, Saber? The servant grunted in her discontent. You are the clear exception to the norm, master. Besides, even if you were able to keep up with me, at best, you merely tied. Regardless, the servants, they'll be the biggest issue here. He steepled his fingers. I do not know what catalyst El Meloy and Velvet have. I know that after Zelrech appropriated Avalon, the Einsburns have obtained a shard of wood? Yes, wood, as an artifact. The Matu, I have no idea, and Tasaka was recorded as buying a fossilized snakeskin. Saber ground her teeth. So, we have absolutely no idea what servants most of the masters have. At least we know the identities of the masters. Naruto muttered. My spies are only human, still fallible. No one is perfect. Didn't I tell you that already? She sighed. Well then, are we to retire? Yeah, I'm feeling sleepy. He sighed. I'll get on unsealing all of our stuff, and we'll scout around the city tomorrow. He got up. Night Saber. Good night, Naruto. Naruto dreamed. He dreamed of a hill of swords, of screaming and death, of knights and blood, of swords flashing through the battlefield. And he dreamed of a king on that hill of swords. That king was fighting her child, her son. The king was struggling, for her sheath had been stolen. The other Red Knight, a terrible figure, was screaming in abject fury. The Red Knight wanted to know why he wasn't allowed to be the heir, why he wasn't worthy, why he couldn't be king. The King of Knights remained stoic, and spoke. I did not despise you. I did not give you the throne for one reason. You lacked the capacity of a king. And red clashed with blue, until the blue figure impaled the red one on her spear. The bloody knight's helmet clattered to the ground, revealing a face that was identical to that of the king's. There. The red knight tried to touch the perfect king with his hands at least once, but that wish was not to be granted. He expired rapidly and fell to the dirt, though not before one final cruelty was dealt to that king of knights. A sword rose, a sword fell, and a king was cut down, fatally wounded by the unwilling hand of the unknown son. It was this scene that Naruto dreamt of, the death of King Arthur in her dream. 2 days later, Master, I felt it. Naruto sighed and stared at his hand, the one on which that stylized sword was etched. It is done then. The last of the heroic spirits have been summoned. He had felt it, and Saber had felt it too. Yesterday, multiple servants had been summoned. Today, one more. So it really begins. The war has started. Naruto murmured. It has. Shall we be going out again, Naruto? We shall. Very well then. Saber gave a bleary yawn from where she was sitting and stretched like some lazy feline, causing Naruto to snicker a little at how utterly adorable his servant was in the morning. Naruto, I require sustenance. Coming right up. And so, Saber prepared herself to engage in that battle that was breakfast. A typical day in their lives, as they had grown accustomed to this daily routine. She sighed. And now it seems as if those halcyon days are over. At least I have not been resting on my laurels this entire time. The blonde servant felt regret, sadness that this brief respite of relative peace was gone now, but at the same time, relief, and excitement at the possibility of a battle. Relief that at long last, the wait was over, and the war could finally begin. And then immediately, shame that she would think such a thing, for while she was loath to admit it, the last few weeks had been some of the more happier in her life. However, her very nature as the servant Saber, as the king of knights Arturia, meant that she would choose duty over personal comfort. For her pride and honor demanded no less, for her upbringing demanded no less. Right now though, she would enjoy these last few moments, this brief respite before the war. I wonder, what will Naruto cook for breakfast? The servant and master pair had just finished checking out the Matu residence, only to find that there was no servant and no master at said household. TCH, what a waste of time. Naruto scowled. Where could Kariya Matu be, anyway? I haven't seen or heard of him since he summoned his servant. Naruto was dressed in one of his all-black suits, tailor-made for combat according to his very demanding specifications. He had several sealing scrolls tucked away in little compartments on said suit, and was currently fuming silently at having spent 3 hours just getting to the Matu residence, only to have that effort spent in vain. Saber sighed. She was also dressed in a black suit, fitted to her form almost perfectly. As to how Naruto obtained her measurements, shinobi are good at determining the lengths and widths of things by eyesight. Let's just go with that. Moving on? How annoying. Naruto murmured. Well then, we might as well check out the Ainsburn castle before calling it a day. Kainet's hideout was so ridiculously easy to find that it is quite laughable, and I don't feel like traipsing to Waver's place of residence. Naruto blinked when he saw a white-haired woman walk by. Absently, he noted that she possessed crimson eyes and pale skin, and was wearing a white coat. He couldn't get a look at the woman's features though. Saber, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that that is an Ainsburn homunculus. That is a homunculus, but I thought that Emiya Kuritsugu is the Ainsburn master, so why? Naruto narrowed his eyes at the white-haired woman, who was walking away. There is something about her presence, some presence that signifies, not human, that is ominous and foreboding. He shook it off. She cannot be a master though. He sighed when he felt someone watching him. Saber, we are currently being observed, aren't we? Yes, 2 of them, on the roofs. Should I eliminate them? Naruto shook his head. No need for that. They don't seem to have any hostile intentions. However, I believe that we should head over to the Tasaka residence now. We have already scouted the Ainsburn's castle yesterday, so another trip there would be redundant. If we continue, we would attract a little more attention than I am comfortable gathering as well. You do realize that it will be dark by the time we arrive? Naruto gave his servant an odd look. Do you care what time of day it is? Will scouting the Tasaka residence impede on dinner? No, it should be fairly quick. Then I don't care. Naruto groaned in utter annoyance, with some humor laced within the annoyance, and palmed his face with a hand. You are a glutton, Saber. A loud explosion filled the air as a white-masked assassin was impaled by a spear and a sword. Saber blanched. That's Archer? Naruto merely whistled in appreciation. Damn, that was impressive. The pair were currently sitting in the branches of a tree and observing the Tasaka mansion. Apparently, Assassin's master had tried to infiltrate the mansion, probably to kill the master of Archer, Tokiomi Tasaka. The idiot had, stealthily, moved to the jewel maintaining the defenses, when the other servant had made his appearance. Archer was a tall and dignified young man with golden hair standing up like a blazing flame. He was handsome, with an elegant face. His eyes, crimson like blood, were visibly not those of a human, and they gave off a mysterious radiance that could make people wither. He had a perfect, golden proportioned body, described as emanating majesty. To compound and top this image, the servant was wearing gold armor, a full suit of it, that was making a very heavy first impression on our protagonists. Those were noble phantasms, Saber muttered, clearly perturbed by the archer's easy disposal of assassin. Is that really an archer class? Naruto sighed. It seems as if Tokiomi has summoned a very powerful servant indeed, if he possesses numerous noble phantasms. Let me see if I can get a good look at his stats. He trailed off. Oh my, Golden Rule rank A, Divinity rank B, Charisma A+, and Independent Action rank A. Naruto sighed once more. My, this guy is a monster, isn't he? Multiple noble phantasms, of moderate quality too. The blonde magus noted, narrowing his eyes at the archer. Clearly a high-ranked servant, if he has that many. It was then that the golden servant decided to make his discontent known. Oi, mongrels in the tree. Show yourselves, lest you suffer the king's wrath. Naruto glanced glumly at Saber, before the pair clambered down from said tree. After all, neither wanted to be skewered by so many floating swords. Now, explain yourselves? What gave you the right to stare at the rightful king? Naruto placed a restraining hand onto his servant's shoulder, lest she condemn them both to Archer's wrath, and mentally prepared himself to think of a way to get out of their current annoying situation. First things first. This Archer seemed to be a very egotistical and arrogant person. Which meant buttering up. He had referred to himself as a king numerous times, so. My apologies, King of Heroes. The blue-eyed blonde replied smoothly. My companion and I were merely curious as to what could cause such a cacophony. Forgive our intrusion. The golden-armored man raised an elegant eyebrow. So, you recognize a true king at first glance. That redeems you to some degree, I suppose. Holy shit, that actually worked. However, it does not explain your intrusion, and your cowardice puts you below my feet. Explain quickly, lest you find yourself with no limbs. Naruto tightened the hand that was on his servant's shoulder. Many apologies, King of Heroes. As I have stated before, we were merely curious as to what the cause of all of that noise was. Once we discovered it, we distanced ourselves from your battlefield so as not to impede on your slaughter of the mongrels. Forgive this man's cowardice, majestic king. He sunk into a low bow, and a quick glance at Saber caused her to reluctantly bow as well. The suited blonde was rather miffed at the idea of bowing to such an arrogant individual, but he was also quite fond of staying alive, and he really did not want to get into a fight at the moment. It was, as Shikamaru would have put it, too troublesome. Silence, until the golden archer laughed. You are quite skilled in wordplay, mongrel. How amusing. Very well then, I shall let you and your companion live, if simply for the fact that you have entertained me. You had better be on your way though. The patience and forgiveness of the king is not limited. Many thanks, King of Heroes. And with a flash of yellow light, the pair vanished, leaving behind a bemused archer. How entertaining. Perhaps there will be some form of amusement in this charade. A flash of gold, and two figures appeared within the household that Naruto had purchased. Naruto exhaled. That was close. We're quite lucky to be unscathed. He glanced at his companion. Sorry about that, Saber. But we had to get away somehow. Saber, who had been getting ready to launch into a massive tirade, immediately stopped. Her eyes softened when she saw her master's sincere, apologetic expression, and she sighed in exhaustion and slumped into a nearby chair. You are forgiven, Naruto. Quite honestly, she was just too hungry and tired to argue at the moment. My thanks to you too. However, you must make me dinner. Immediately. The blonde paled, before quickly recovering. Damn. Well, I guess it is to be expected. Indeed, it is. It was a bloody battlefield. Ghouls, demons, creatures that belonged to the pits of purgatory, the dark abyss. Saber plunged her sword into another undead and shook her head. This is what my master does? There was no glory in this combat. There was no honor in killing things that were no better than animals. On this battlefield, it was kill or be killed. Slay or be slain. She turned her head to avoid another ghoul, and brought her invisible blade across its neck. The headless body collapsed, like a stringless puppet. However, more followed. Hundreds of the abominations, shadowed by a burning village. As Saber prepared herself to lunge forward, she noticed a flash of light by the corner of her eye. A short knife flew past her and tore into the skull of an undead that had gone unnoticed. You missed one, Saber. That was her master. The blonde had an uncharacteristic serious look upon his face, and was dressed in his typical suit, except his was stained red at the sleeves. He was holding 2 more knives in his right hand, arms still outstretched from when he threw them. My apologies, master. Ma, don't worry. There's no time for that sort of thing. Right now, we have a job to do. Understood. Leave it to me. She heard the blue-eyed blonde sigh. You know, you're not alone, right? Not anymore, at any rate. I can fight alone, master. Your safety is paramount. 2 opponents are harder to face than 1. You do realize that, right? He sighed once more. Well, looks like I might have to prove that teamwork trumps any ridiculous notion that you have of fighting all by yourself. He pulled out a scroll. Here they come. Saber, just don't get killed. Naruto's lips thinned. Believe me, it is they who will have to fear. And with a wordless battle cry, master and servant launched themselves towards the horde of revived dead. Saber would look back on that night, and she would remember it as the first time she stood back to back with her master in combat. It would not be the last time, either. Another patrol, another one. And Saber could certainly say that she was a little annoyed by this constant walking. Naruto, I must ask. What are we doing right now? To say exactly, what are we doing? Ah, didn't you know? One of my shadow clones saw a master heading to the docks. And just now, I saw that Kaneth guy heading in that same direction. Saber shuddered. Shadow clones. She had heard the blonde casually mention being able to create clones from nothing but OD and mana, but to see it actually being utilized was quite scary. Such a thing really shouldn't be possible in today's magical world. A normal magus couldn't replicate half of the things that Naruto could accomplish. Then again, he wasn't normal by any definition of the word. For starters, normal magi didn't get to have the ability to utilize clones to stream information directly into one's brain. And normal magi didn't get to have a conceptual weapon that could heal one's aneurysms from the inevitable meltdown that occurs when too much information is downloaded into a brain that could only process so much, or a lingering regeneration factor that could do the same thing, albeit much more slowly. Of course, having your brain literally begin melting down from information overload was never a pleasant thing to happen. More on that later though. And so, we find our protagonists meandering towards the docks of Fuyuki City, only to pause when they heard the ringing of metal against metal. A battle then? Naruto mused. Very close too. Saber, do you think we should engage then, or observe? The smaller sword-wielding blonde paused, while she was fired up and ready to battle. No. We will most likely be interrupting a duel between servants, and I would not be the one to impede in an honorable duel. For now then, let us merely observe. I agree, if only because we will be able to gather more information this way. Naruto shrugged. We need a vantage point then. Naruto trailed off. Ah, what is this then? For, on a nearby bridge, Fuyuki Bridge, the most ideal point to observe the battle on the docks, was a large man and a smaller one, with a chariot being pulled by 2 bulls, oddly enough. The larger man was dressed in a red cloak and bronze armor with greaves and fringes that left his arms and thighs open. However, this armor and this cape, both were decorated in a manner that was befitting of some royalty, or a nobleman. He was tall, easily towering over 2 meters in height, with red hair and beard and a tanned complexion. It could be noted that he was extremely well muscled as well, giving the impression of being able to kill wild animals with his bare hands. The other man, not much more than a boy, was pretty much the exact opposite. Greenish-black hair that reached his shoulders, with greenish-black eyes and a slight frame, dressed in formal clothes fitting for a magus. He basically looked like a small child compared to Naruto or his companion. It was painfully obvious that this was no ordinary pair. Oh ho, master and servant, Naruto muttered under his breath. Naruto, should we eliminate them? They don't seem to be hostile. Leave them be for now. He paused when he noticed the larger man look over to his location and begin waving cheerfully. Well, that's a clear invitation if I ever saw one. He turned to his servant. Shall we? It would be rude for us not to accept this heartfelt invitation. Unless you believe the bridge to be booby-trapped. The spiky-haired blonde shook his head. Doubt it. The general impression I'm getting off of those guys. They're not the type to do anything like that. Both suited blondes walked calmly towards the still grinning mammoth of a man and his trembling companion. "Ah, greetings there," he stated boldly. "Here to watch the fight then?" "Indeed," Naruto replied calmly. "Only to observe, nothing more." He trailed off. "Are you Rider then?" Everybody on the bridge stopped and stared at Naruto, who deadpanned. "He has a chariot. A chariot, of all things. What else could he be? Caster?" More silence, until Saber cracked a grin and Rider laughed uproariously. "As expected of my master's deductive skills," the smaller green-eyed woman stated smugly. "Truly, a force to be reckoned with." "Ahahaha." Rider laughed. "I think I like you, boy. Quite perceptive, aren't you?" "I try," was Naruto's nonchalant reply. "Shall we introduce ourselves to each other then? Or is there no need for such matters? I am the servant summoned under the class of Rider in this Holy Grail war. Alexander, the king of conquerors." The more petite boy blanched. "Oi, dumbass, don't go telling them that," he yelled, as he waved his arms about comically, clearly appalled by his servant's lack of subtlety. The only thing that he received for his efforts was a flick to the forehead, which sent him sprawling across the bridge. "Men like you. How fortunate. I can sense great strength in both of you. Care to join my army as my underlings?" Saber twitched. "No, I must decline. Swearing myself to you would be subverting my honor. I have my pride as a king to consider." Naruto paused for a moment. "I would have to reject that proposal. My apologies, Alexander. But I have to take into consideration my servant's desires as well as my own." He actually looked sheepish, slightly. "Furthermore, I do not think that I would do well under the rule of another." Alexander sighed. "Such a shame, such a shame. I would not object to the idea of being allies in this war though. That's the thing though, isn't it? There can be only one victor. Only one king can conquer the world, not two." The muscular servant sighed once more, dejectedly. "How sad. If that is to be, then so be it." Naruto murmured. "It really is a pity. You are clearly a heroic spirit that has almost no compare. Well, actually, my servant would probably be more than a match for you." Alexander snorted. "That little girl?" Saber was about to retort, when Naruto cut her off. "You would do well not to underestimate that little girl. She is a noble and great leader of men, whose legend is sung throughout the world. She has faced the dark forces, the evils, and she is the champion of an eternal dream. She is the most excellent of those servant classes, Saber." He paused. "And by the way, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Since you have had the courtesy to introduce yourself, I shall do the same." Waver blanched when he looked at Saber. "Say, seriously, those stats are..." Saber raised an eyebrow. "Naruto, you praise me too much. I aim to please. So, a challenge then. How exciting. And what of you, boy? You are clearly no ordinary human if the way you hold yourself is any indication." "Me? I am simply an old soldier, chasing a stupid wish." He waved off Iskander's question with a short laugh and that self-deprecating statement. "I see. Well then, you are here to observe, are you not?" "Indeed. Let us see then, just what kind of opponents the Holy Grail has to offer." The two figures had just finished another clash, metal grinding against metal, armor against lance, sword against lance, and had just separated. And for the first time, Saber and Naruto were able to observe the combatants. One was obviously a lancer while the other was a swordsman. The one wielding lances, yes, there were two of them, was quite handsome, with features that were capable of enchanting any woman, and quite possibly a few men. He was dressed in a dark teal outfit, and his dual spears were wrapped in cloth, one crimson red and one a golden yellow. Naruto sniffed the air curiously. "What is that smell?" "Mystic face then. That compelling face that attracts people. That is not natural," Saber murmured. "If it were not for my high magic resistance, I would most likely succumb as well." Interesting, interesting. He is alone though. Where is his master?" Iskander grunted. "Most likely, hiding, like a rat." My, that's too bad." It was when Naruto turned his attentions to the other figure that he paled and almost fell backwards in shock. He turned to note that Saber had actually taken a step back in utter surprise. "Is that?" Saber whispered out, looking more surprised than anything. Naruto narrowed his eyes. "That's..." The other figure was dressed in thick armor that covered its entire frame, silver and ornate, with red cloth mixed with said silver armor. It was holding a silver blade, again, ornately decorated, the blade of a knight. However, that's blood I'm smelling. Iron from blood. He narrowed his eyes. And that armor. Saber, I have seen this figure before, in the dream sequence, that's... Yes, it's that person, no doubt. Saber sighed and placed a hand over her eyes. Such misfortune. Boy, who is that servant? Saber answered Iskander. That is Mordred, son of King Arthur, and my killer. Alexander wasn't a stupid man. Brash, yes. Confident with that arrogance that could only belong to a king, yes. But he wasn't stupid enough not to make the obvious connection. I see. To think that the king of knights would be a little girl. You would do well not to underestimate me. Understand that just because I am a woman, it does not mean I won't spill your blood on my blade, Ryder. The large servant sighed and cleaned his ear with his finger. You should act more like your master, you know. He seems like a pretty respectable guy. It's begun. Naruto interrupted the servants' squabbling, causing them to fall silent. Lancer's going to unleash it. You mean, he's getting ready to unveil his noble phantasm. I must commend you. The Teal Knight muttered carefully. To be able to parry all of my attacks like you have been doing shows that you possess great skill. Enough, fool. Keep talking then, so that I may cut you down with my blade. Avenger sneered, condescension and malice clearly present in its voice. Another voice blared out, loud and commanding, seemingly from nowhere. Lancer, that is enough. You have had your fun, now end this battle quickly. You may use your noble phantasm. The servant of the lance nodded. Understood, my lord. The wrappings around his golden spear and red spear vanished. I shall be going for the kill now. Will you not tell me your class name, at the very least? The other Red Knight, the helmeted one, laughed, a shrill and grating noise that was more akin to someone dying. Very well then, I shall honor that request. My class is Avenger. This caused everyone in the surrounding area to flinch slightly. Avenger. Lancer murmured softly. Who could have known? I had thought you a saber, or possibly a rider, but Avenger. Lancer, finish it off. The voice commanded. Of course, my lord. I shall be going for the throat now, Avenger. He tilted his head to the side. That helmet conceals your identity, does it not? Meaning that if I were to catch a glimpse of your face, I would be able to discern your identity. Avenger snorted. I sincerely doubt it, but you are welcome to try, regardless. The Teal Knight sighed, and began walking away from his other spear. Very well then. He struck out with his red spear, but found it blocked by Avenger's sword. TCH. Very well then. You only have one sword, Avenger. He then proceeded to impale Avenger with his other golden spear. Tried to, would be better terminology. At the last possible second, Avenger moved to the side, causing a horrendous screeching of metal on metal to emit from where the golden spear scraped along its armored flank. Good reflexes. Lancer noted, with grudging approval. That armor. Tricky, tricky. Stay still, and let me kill you. Avenger growled, both hands on its sword. Is that part of your noble phantasm, then? He switched hands and struck again, only to be parried by Avenger. TCH. Back and forth, forwards and backwards, the two knights fought, gaining advantages and quickly losing them shortly thereafter. Lancer had the advantage in that he possessed two weapons instead of a singular one, and he was noticeably quicker than Avenger. Avenger, however, was just a little slower, and had the advantage in brute strength and its armor that continued deflecting glancing blows from both lances. Eventually, it happened. Avenger tried blocking a stab to the chest from the golden spear with its right arm, only to mistime the stab and end up with a spear through said limb. HNGH. Avenger. Irisveal cried out. She had been standing nearby and observing the battle for quite some time now. Woman, heal me. I'm trying. I have. Your wound should be healed. It is healed. Naruto sighed. It's begun. Waver looked at this strange master oddly. What has? Lancer's final attack. Saber nodded. He is incredibly skilled. With that wound that Avenger has suffered, the battle will be over shortly. Isn't that a good thing? Iskander, the big servant, grunted in disapproval and slammed his foot against the ground, causing his master to eat and bow his head. No, for all it's worth. Avenger being defeated on the first night probably isn't the best since all the other servants haven't been revealed yet. Both Alexander and I hope to see more of them come out. Ryder nodded at Naruto's words, agreeing with him. Correct, and if Avenger falls, it'll be too late. Waver raised his head. Too late? He questioned his servant's choice of words. The plan was to attack once they'd knocked each other out. Alexander stated, explaining his strategy for their attack on the servants. Saber blinked. Is that not cowardly, then? Do not judge me, King of Knights. I had hoped that more servants would have answered Lancer's challenge, seeing as it would be easier to fight them together rather than in a one-on-one confrontation. This caused Saber to gain a quite annoyed expression on her face. Some of us happen to specialize in one-on-one confrontations, Ryder. I mean no disrespect, but unlike those who simply watch and wait for the best time to strike from the shadows, Avenger and Lancer are both valiant warriors whom I would dearly love to duel. Even you two, given the chance, if my presumptions are right, none of you should die before I have a chance to battle you. But isn't that the point of the battle? The Grail's war is to kill one another. Waver's shouting was met by his servant flicking his head and sending him spinning. It's clear that Alexander requires a proper battle to decide this war. Like his history, he wants to conquer this war with no questions over his ability afterwards. Naruto observed, yes, what I truly seek is to have truly conquered this war with all my strength. He drew out his sword and swiped at the sky, which opened in a torrent of lightning that channeled through the metal of the bridge. His great chariot came through the tear in the sky as Waver held onto the bridge for dear life. We wait no longer. We shall participate, boy. He paused. King of Knights, would you and your master wish to ride with us? I have my own methods of arriving, Ryder. Saber replied easily, though I must thank you for your courtesy. Oi, oi. The youngest in the little group was essentially having a panic attack. Isn't this dangerous? If you are too afraid, you can always stay behind. Alexander sniffed. Are you scared then? Hearing that, Waver made up his mind. I'll go. Take me, damn it. He shouted as if his life depended on it. The servant's smirk grew hearing Waver as he pulled him onto the chariot. Yosh, that is my master. He proclaimed as he took off into the sky with speed, leaving behind an annoyed king and a bemused Magus. What an interesting pair, Saber sighed. Maybe. I do not believe that they will last long against my blade and your special brand of magecraft, however. Naruto considered this statement before shrugging. Who knows? We'll just have to see, won't we? Avenger stared at its wound in slight annoyance. A spear that inflicts wounds that do not heal. Another spear, and a mole under your eye. I suppose I should feel honored then, to be facing you, first of the Knights of Fianna, Dearmood of the Radiant Face. It would be better, if you were to give me your name now that you know mine. The Bloody Knight laughed again. You will know my name in time, for now that I know this, I will be able to cut you down with impunity. You say this when you have lost the use of one arm. Avenger radiated an air of smugness and promised violence and retribution, even if its face were not visible. I have suffered worse, it is of no consequence. However, before they could re-engage, a clap of thunder sounded across the landscape, and a large chariot dropped between them with a rather tall muscular man at the helm. Irisveal was dumbstruck. A chariot. The chariot was surrounded by lightning, drawn by two bulls, and at its helm was a muscular man. It was positioned between lances, and Avenger's sword. Both of you, lay down your arms, for a true king comes. The servant surveyed Lancer and Avenger, noted their surprise and shock at his arrival, and nodded affirmatively. I am Alexander, King of Conquerors. I have received the designation of Rider in this Holy Grail War. That was when everyone really became gobsmacked. In the War of the Holy Grail, no servant would want to declare his identity, as it could be a key component of any and all battle plans. On the bridge, Saber was speechless at this servant's audacity and, in her opinion, foolishness. Naruto stifled a chuckle. I like this guy. I don't know why, but I do. What a fool, to reveal his name so easily. Saber murmured. Yes, she had also revealed her identity, but that was only because Alexander had introduced himself first, and it was only common courtesy to do so, and it was unintentional. She was really just trying to justify making such a huge blunder. Saber, you can't say that you hate this guy, right? Naruto whispered. I will not say anything on the matter. So cold. And you revealed your identity too. That was inadvertent. It was unintentional. A blunder. The blonde servant cried out. It was a slip of the tongue, and nothing more. Someone is in denial. Naruto teased. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Saber replied with a slight blush on her face, as she turned her nose to the air, acting the very part of the indifferent monarch. If you insist, let's watch the fight then. What are you doing, you dumbass? Waver cried out, earning yet another flick to the forehead. Seen your battle. Fate has brought us together to fight for the Grail, but first, there is something I must ask. How about yielding the Grail to me and joining my army? Alexander said with a smile. I will treat you both as my friends, and we shall share in the joy of world conquest together. Lancer blinked, then glared at the burly servant. You would dare interrupt my battle for something as stupid as that? My loyalty lies with my lord, not with you, Ryder. Avenger grunted, seemingly annoyed. What a clown. I have no interest in your petty dreams of world conquest. Alexander sighed. Negotiations have failed once again. Irisveal blinked in amazement. Negotiation? You came in and essentially demanded that they swear loyalty to you. Exactly. It was planning. A brief pause. That's not planning. Lancer, Avenger, Irisveal, and Waver yelled at him. Yes it is. The same voice that ordered Lancer spoke up. So, you were the one that stole my catalyst, Waver Velvet. Irisveal widened her eyes. That is. I'm amazed, Waver Velvet. To think that you would have the audacity to steal my holy relic. And have the boldness to join the heavens feel. The concealed voice of Lancer's master spoke. I actually wanted my poor beloved student to be happy. Waver, someone as mediocre as you only deserves to possess the calm and stable life of commoners. Therefore, it falls to me, as your teacher, to school you privately. The silky, oily voice called out. I'll have to teach you about the pain and fear that is involved in this most sacred of rituals. Waver was terrified. There were no other words around that. He was scared to death of his former teacher, Kenneth Archibald Elmeloy. Until Ryder spoke. So, you were the one that was supposed to be my master? Alexander rumbled. How distasteful, you could never be my master. Only one who has the bravery to ride out with me onto the battlefield has that right. Not one who would be so cowardly as to skulk in the shadows. Silence. Only the anger of an arrogant noble could be felt in the black, seething with absolute rage at the impudence of Alexander. You dare? Are all servants this impudent towards their betters? The red-clad servant ignored him. On that note, oi, all of you that are hiding yourselves. Show yourself immediately, or are you too cowardly to do so? I, Alexander, the king of conquerors, would have you show your faces. Ryder, Lancer said seriously. Who on earth are you talking to? You didn't think that your entire battle went unnoticed, didn't you? I know that Saber and her master are watching the battle right now, to say nothing of the other servant observing this gathering. And with that statement, golden dust coalesced on top of a lamppost, forming into that golden king that had caused such an uproar on the first night of the war. Waver was stunned. Isn't that? That's the servant that killed Assassin on the first night of the war. Irisveal finished. Everyone on the docks stared at the golden armored figure, who was the epitome of king. This could not be a caster. So, by process of elimination, seeing as Saber was not the one being referred to by Alexander, and he was clearly not under mad enhancement. Archer? Waver murmured softly. The last of those 3 night classes. Archer. The servant of the bow. The golden servant sneered. I did not expect a fool to appear before me and call themselves king, when there is clearly only one king. Me. If you're truly a king, then why not name yourself? No true king should be troubled by giving his name. Alexander asked of the man standing atop the post. So you would question me, pretender? The light beneath his feet went out as he broke it by stomping his foot. Me, the king? At least there was a mongrel that was able to discover my true name on first glance. It was the only reason I gave him a chance to live. For the rest of you, if even in the presence of my glory you cannot discern my identity, your blindness will seal your doom. From behind him a golden glow appeared and 2 weapons appears out of it. Are those noble phantasms? Waver said, clearly shocked. Those are noble phantasms, foolish mongrels. Now then, prepare to face the wrath of a king. However, he was cut off by a swirl of darkness appearing, a mar in the landscape. A swirl of pure darkness had appeared, a black flame that burned furiously before dissipating, revealing a black figure, in what could be a night, but could also not be a night, shrouded in black, cloaked in darkness. Truly, skulking in the shadows. Avenger turned its helmed head in the Black Knight's direction. Ho? Is that Berserker then? Lancer laughed nervously. Oi, Ryder, do you plan on inviting him? Ryder grunted. He doesn't seem the thinking type. Boy, how strong is he? Waver looked at the Black Knight and recoiled slightly. I can't tell. It's as if his stats were being obscured by some black cloud. He is obviously strong though. All eyes went to the black figure, who was clearly unnerving most of those present. However, that shock would not last long. A tri-pronged knife hissed through the air and landed in the ground with a small, thunking noise. They're arriving then? A flash of golden light lit the battlefield, forcing Lancer and Waver to avert their eyes. When the glowing had passed, two figures had appeared, both clad in black suits, both blonde, and both radiating an aura that could only be described as deadly. Once again silence until the taller one, with spiky hair and blue eyes, broke into a grin. Yo, sorry we're late. I got lost on the road of life, and Saber had to drag me back. Absolute silence. Everybody was staring at the whiskered blonde in sheer amazement. Was he suicidal, or something? Waver, Lancer and Kenneth were appalled. Irisveal was surprised. Alexander was stroking his beard while grinning. Avenger was suitably surprised, both by the spiky blonde and his companion, and Archer. One could see a vein pulsing in his head. He was clearly annoyed. Well, pretty much anything could set off Gilgamesh's temper. Hell, even looking at him warrants punishment. Yeah, Archer? He was pissed. Saber sighed. Master, you're making a scene. Again. Avenger turned to Saber, just now noticing her. Is that Mo? Saber, we're here, aren't we? Yes, but you're embarrassing yourself with your antics. That, sorry, I'm late gag is not particularly amusing. Naruto blinked. Yes, it actually is. Even you had to admit it. Saber paused, and took that into consideration, causing a semi-pleased expression to form on her face, before that morphed back into her impassive one. It is rather humorous for those that are not on the opposing end, but that is not the point. The blue-eyed blonde sighed at that. Spoil sport. Ah, where are our manners? As you know, beside me is Servant Saber. As for myself, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, former shinobi turned magus, apprentice to the greatest troll ever, Kisher Zelrat Schweinorg, and magician in training. Now this drew surprised reactions out of the magi that were present. All of them had heard that Kaleidoscope had taken an apprentice, amazingly enough, but this man was a magician? What the hell? You're a practitioner of the second magic? Waver shouted accusingly, pointing a trembling finger at the suited blonde. Yeah, is there a problem? Fuck yes, there's a problem. Is there a point behind that statement? Lancer asked, clearly bored out of his mind. Maybe. A sword flashed through the air towards our protagonists and promptly exploded. Fool. You dare keep a king waiting. Such impudence. Even if you were able to recognize me on sight, there is no forgiveness for this act of disrespect. The Golden King stated, still enraged by his fellow blonde's antics. Mongrels like you should just return to the dirt from whence you came. Of course, his rage had another target. And you mad dog. What do you think you're looking at? A spear and a sword appeared from a golden ripple in the air, glorious and fine in manufacture and design. Return to the earth. The spear and sword were fired, and another explosion that sent up a large plume of smoke. Oi, oi. Archer stiffened when he heard that annoying voice emanate from an alleyway. That's a bit rude, don't you think? Quite dangerous too. What the hell? Waver said, more shocked than terrified. How the hell did he get all the way over there? Naruto blinked, then smirked and put a finger to his lips. That's a secret. Q face fault. Meanwhile, Mr. Goldie Pants was still raging. You dare mock me? You would dare defy the justice of the king? Saber decided to speak her mind. I do not see a king standing before me, merely a petulant brat. If you are a king then come down and fight like a king should. Naruto face palmed. Saber, you just got him madder. And you have not? Touché. Amazingly enough, Archer either hadn't heard his words, or was just too mad to care. Another pretender? What insolence. More weapons appeared in midair, surrounded by those golden ripples, weapons of the highest quality, of the highest make, of the highest manufacture. Weapons fit for a king, and there were so many too. Spears, swords, axes, knives, daggers, scythes, halberds. If it could be named, then Archer had it. All noble phantasms, or on the level of a noble phantasm. However, before he could fire the weapons, Archer paused. And the mad dog survives, too? Yes, Berserker had indeed survived the 2 weapons that Archer had fired. The Black Knight was walking out of a plume of smoke, wielding a tainted sword in one hand, spider-webbed with red veins and emitting an ominous cloud of darkness. Interesting, to have such skill in such a state. Ryder murmured. Yes, did you not see it then? He caught that sword and used it to destroy the spear. Avenger spoke, startling Waver, who had almost forgotten about the heavily armored servant. But that is not what interests me. You damn mongrels. I'll just kill you now. Before the weapons could fire, however, Archer came to a complete halt, and looked up, clearly annoyed. Retreat? You got some nerve, Tokiomi, to order a king around like a mere peasant. The weapons all retracted, the ripples closed, the few weapons that remained on the ground dissolved into golden dust. Archer was near apoplectic about his forced retreat, but he could do nothing about it. A command seal had been used, and compliance was forced. TCH, having to run like this. How distasteful. He turned to leave, though not without some parting words. Mongrels. See that you've culled your numbers by our next meeting, as only a true hero is worthy of looking upon me. And you too. You had better not try the patience of the king a 3rd time. With a final sneer, that king dissolved into golden particles and vanished. The sudden quiet was broken by Ryder's low rumble. Boy. No, Naruto. Just who was that character? Naruto sighed. That just confirmed my suspicions. That haughty disposition, the vast treasury of weapons, that golden body. There has only been one hero that has owned all the world's treasures. Saber looked at her master in utter shock. You mean? Yes. That man is Gilgamesh, king of heroes. The whiskered blonde replied. And he is Tasaka's servant. Clearly, this war will prove to be quite interesting. He paused. And what will you all do now? Avenger stepped forwards, visibly trembling with anticipation. We meet again, father. Waver blanched. Wait, father? Saber is a woman. Why the hell are you referring to Saber with masculine pronouns? Waver shouted. She's clearly a girl. King Arthur is my father. It matters not what gender he is, it is the inexorable truth. Lancer. You wished to know my name, did you not? Avenger. What are you doing? No, this is a matter of pride. For you see, my name is Mordred. That bastard child of the King of Knights, Arthur. Avenger rumbled angrily. Mordred. Saber murmured softly. She traced an invisible line on her chest, where she was cut down in battle. Remembering past wounds, father? I know that I remember mine. Avenger's hand went to her side. So this is the heroic spirit King Arthur. Irisviel stated. That little girl is seriously King Arthur? Lancer asked incredulously. A brief lull in the talking, as various parties contemplated this idea. Naruto grinned, his feral smile in place. Well then, are we to fight, then? Because if that is to be the case, then we'll just have to give a good showing now, won't we? A roaring noise caused everyone's attention to turn to Berserker, who had picked up a lamppost and was charging at the servant and master pair. Avenger drew her sword and was slowly advanced in the same direction that Berserker was currently charging. My, Naruto sighed. How rude. He casually took out a scroll. Saber, if you could? His servant instantly materialized her silver armor and invisible weapon, and parried Berserker's blow. Not a problem, master. Saber grunted. Although Berserker is quite strong. Just hold on, I'll be ready shortly. Naruto opened the scroll and scanned through it quickly. We'll use this one today, I suppose. Oi, what are you doing? A master can't possibly take on a servant. Waver yelled. Saber shook her head at Waver's folly. Child, if there is one thing you should know about my master, it is this. Never, ever underestimate him. For it will be the last mistake in your short existence. Naruto finished. And with that, he placed a hand on a circular seal within the scroll and channeled a small quantity of OD into said scroll. A puff of smoke obscured the vision of all those watching, and when it cleared, Naruto was holding a sword. No, sword is too good a word to describe the implement in his hand. It was a huge hunk of metal, bigger than Naruto was, shaped like a butcher's knife. The blade itself had 2 cutouts, one near the top and one near the handle. Yet, despite the massive bulk, the blonde magus was holding it with a single hand. This sword was clearly designed to kill the enemy, there was no other purpose. It was a heavy and crude thing, yet elegant in its simplicity. It looked absolutely terrifying, especially when combined with the blonde's bloodthirsty grin. Ah, more introductions. Shit stains, meet Kabikirabocho. Kabikirabocho, meet shit stains. I promise, you'll get acquainted shortly. Now then. And with that, the spiky-haired blonde grabbed the handle of his giant blade with another hand, and launched himself at Berserker, causing the black servant to leap backwards in order to avoid the massive decapitating blade. Saber, which do you want? Big, bad and ugly, or smaller, yet uglier? Saber twitched. Avenger looks exactly like me, you do realize. You are K. Never mind then. He blocked another one of Berserker's strikes and glared at the Black Knight. You do know that it's rude to interrupt conversations, don't you? He then proceeded to smash the flat of his blade across Berserker's helmet, sending the mad servant flying. It was so silent that you could hear a pin drop. Literally, Kenneth had a pin on him, God knows why, and he dropped it, metal falling from nerveless fingers. Of course, the noise didn't actually register in the minds of those present. I'll be back. I've got to go take out the trash. You can handle Mordred, can't you? Saber nodded. Go. I have some business to attend to. She glanced at her master, eyes momentarily narrowing in concern. You will be all right, won't you? You know me, Saber. What do you think? I think you will be more than fine. She smirked. Very well then. I'll leave you to it. And the servant of the sword charged forward in a sudden burst of speed to do combat with the irregular servant that had been summoned, while her master braced himself to receive the mad servant's charge. And on that night, battle was joined. Metal against metal, steel against steel, flesh against flesh. Two figures fought against two figures, a blue knight versus a red one, and a suited blonde versus a twisted knight. The sound of swords striking swords rang out, blades blurring at supernatural speeds. It wasn't a match of normal men. It was the realm of those that were not human, that were above humanity. It was a match of servants, making it all the more surprising that a normal human could actually compete in this match of heroes. I must say, Ryder rumbled ponderously, those two are quite strong. Waver was slack-jawed. No shit. How the fuck? What the hell? What the? Indeed. Despite wielding such a huge and ponderous weapon, the male is using said blade quite deftly and with relative ease. Lancer noted. What is more, is that he is matching Berserker blow for blow, meaning. Ryder finished Lancer's sentence, meaning that Naruto character is strong. To be able to fight the maddened servant head-on is quite the accomplishment for a normal human. Not to mention, do you not see their coordination? Coordination? Lancer whistled. Yeah, I see it now. Irisfield tilted her head slightly in confusion. Coordination. Their movements. Do you not notice that their battles coincide with one another? That is to say, the combatants cross paths? Ryder said. And yet, the both of them are mindful of where the other is. Truly, remarkable. Naruto deflected yet another strike with his massive sword, grunting as he was pushed back by the sheer force of Berserker's blows. Damn, going head-on won't work, huh? Not even with this blade. He dropped his blade, rolled under a swing directed at his head, and grabbed the handle of Kabikirabocho, bringing the large blade down in an overhead swing. That was promptly blocked by Berserker. Oh, come on, aren't you supposed to be insane? Unless. The blonde magus groaned in frustration. Oh, you have got to be shitting me. Is it because you were so skilled in life that you can fight like a professional even while under mad enhancement? Berserker roared, and pushed Naruto's sword back, trying to crush him with brute strength. Eventually, Naruto's grip slackened, allowing Berserker to make a slight cut on his cheek, the blonde barely dodging the blackened lamppost. And that ability, how troublesome. Over in the observers section, Ryder nodded. Yes, that ability. That black thing seems to be able to make noble phantasms out of whatever it picks up. Meanwhile, Saber was fighting with Avenger. Fighting being a relative term, all things considered, seeing as Avenger had a large gash on one of her arms. The Red Knight grunted as another one of Saber's blows clanged against her blade. Why so cruel, father? It has been such a long time. Such a long time since we have seen each other. Enough, Mordred. If you continue speaking, you may very well die in combat. She cocked her head. You will probably die now regardless. Avenger sighed. This wound. How annoying. A spear that deals wounds that can never heal. How irritating. Seeing as it prevents me from killing you. Father. Another clash of steel, blades dead-locked, green eyes staring at an emotionless helm. When last we fought, you told me that I lacked the capacity of a king. Do you still think so, Arthur? Do you still believe that I lack the capacity of a king, as I am able to stand against you whilst handicapped? Do I? Avenger screamed this last part. Saber sighed and closed her eyes in weariness. I said before, haven't I? I do not despise you. You simply lacked that capacity of the king. She replied emotionlessly. This enraged Mordred even further than Saber had thought it possible. The king, always about the king. What is the capacity of the king? What is a king? You, who has had his country burned before her eyes, who has failed his own people, you have the gall to judge me. Please die. And with that, Mordred continued her enraged assault, blow upon blow striking the invisible blade of the emotionless king. Naruto was toiling. Fuck, he muttered, as Berserker blocked another one of his blows. If this keeps up, it was clear that Berserker was skilled in close range, quite possibly more than even Saber was. And while Naruto was no slouch in close range, he was quite simply outclassed. He may have been able to keep up with Saber, even beat her if he truly tried, but against a monster like Berserker, who was hitting with insane strength and speed. It was all he could do to hold his own, and even then he was failing. Taking on Berserker suddenly didn't seem like such a good idea, especially when the main motive was only to test the mad servant's strength. The blonde magus suddenly felt as if he had bitten off a little more than he could chew. Of course, that was when the playing field was even. And Naruto Uzumaki didn't play fair. He grunted as he rolled under another blow that nearly took his head off. Time to kick it up a notch. He leapt back and took out another scroll, placing a hand on another symbol and unsealing. Paper? In the shadows, Kenneth snorted. Paper? What can he hope to do with something as useless as that? However, all were shocked when the spiky-haired magus made a strange sign with his hands, and a clone of him formed, minus the giant sword, took the sheets of paper and promptly vanished. What the fuck? Waver muttered. Ryder raised an eyebrow. Ho? That's interesting. The blonde magus was serious, seeing as if he took the maddened servant lightly, he would most likely die. There was no banter, no words were spoken, he was absolutely serious. And then he moved, blurring away at speeds faster than a regular human could see, faster than he had been moving before. Such movement would tear his muscles and strain his bones, but in order to keep up with an opponent of such skill, it was necessary. Steel rang out against steel, over and over, a cacophony of discordant tone, as Naruto's massive blade stuck Berserker's makeshift weapon. Over and over. Yet even with this added effort, it was clear that Naruto was slowly being worn down, pressed back. Blades smashing against blades, the blonde doing his level best to deflect as many of Berserker's attacks as he could, for standing directly against that kind of strength was suicidal. Strong Naruto may have been, but it was clear that Berserker was not a normal heroic spirit, far from it indeed. So Naruto kept on deflecting strikes, attempting to minimize and dispel the force behind the swings and stabs of the mad servant. And for the most part, he was successful, but he was still being driven back. Ryder noted that the clone had completely disappeared, strangely enough. It reappeared momentarily afterwards and dispelled itself in a small puff of smoke. The blonde remained stoic, though his lips twitched upwards in a small smile momentarily. And then, he took a step back, to avoid a thrust to the heart. Another, to avoid being dismembered, a giant leap backwards, to avoid being disemboweled. Naruto had kept up with Berserker longer than most men, and many servants could ever hope to, but he was being pushed back, slowly and inexorably. Berserker was steadily advancing, maddened howls emitting from its darkened helmet, as it continued raining blow after blow on the suited blonde. For a moment, it looked like the blonde magus was about to succumb. Naruto's feet slipped slightly, as he stumbled onto some litter that was scattered on the ground. This caused him to grunt as the lamppost lacerated his left arm in his distraction. A mild injury, not life-threatening, but still annoying, and a hint that if he didn't do something to incapacitate or kill Berserker immediately, the battle would quickly turn for the worse. And then, as he caught one final blow on the blade of his sword, muscles straining to resist Berserker's awesome strength, he smiled. He leapt back, deflecting the lamppost, and he released one hand from the handle of his blade to form a half-hand seal. lifting his index and middle fingers while curling the other digits. Immediately, the ground below Berserker erupted in gouts of fire. A concussive force blew across the battlefield, and a massive plume of smoke rose from the new ball of fire that had suddenly appeared below the Black Knight. The explosion happened on the far side of the docks, where no one had been looking, and where there was no property that could be damaged by said explosion. The blast was deafening. Naruto jammed his blade into the ground and leaned heavily on it, panting from his recent exertions. What the? Lancer started, in sheer shock. What did he just do? Ryder beamed, clearly excited about how the well-dressed Magus had turned the tides of battle. Did you not see? He formed a clone, and had it take paper to some unknown location. We have not been watching that corner of the battlefield. That paper obviously can be detonated with a hand sign. And there was trash on the ground, including paper. He used the clone to set the explosives and lured Berserker into a trap. Clever, oh so clever. Lancer scowled. That is not chivalrous, not at all. I will admit though, it is quite intelligent of him. Avenger paused as her blade deadlocked with Saber's once more, and stared at the blossoming plume of smoke. It seems that your master is quite competent indeed, if he is able to hold off something like Berserker. Saber grinned. Of course. After all, he is the only one in this era that I would trust my back to. He is the most exceptional master among all of the masters. Interesting, to think that such a caliber of being exists in this era. Avenger trailed off. And to gain the king's favor. When I could not, you would give some nameless dog the honor of fighting by your side, when you. Avenger howled in abject fury. Again I have been shunned. Retreat, Avenger. You are wounded quite severely, and I outmatch you. It would be unseemly of me to dispose of a wounded opponent like this, even if you are. The Red Knight snarled. You forget who it was that killed you. Arthur. A crimson aura began flickering around the enraged servant of vengeance, as red as freshly shed blood. The Magi present could feel her prana levels flickering, quickly rising, soaring. This could only mean one thing. Avenger was going to release her noble phantasm. The two halves of her helmet split, and lowered themselves into her armor, revealing a face that was identical to Saber's. That is to say, the face of a very pretty young woman. Ryder hummed in contemplation. So, it is true then. That is Mordred, and the other is Arthur Pendragon, the King of Knights. What good fortune, to fight opponents such as these. Mordred wore an expression of absolute rage and fury, anger against her father, against that person who represented everything she wanted to be in life. She raised her sword with both hands, uncaring for the wound that was on one of them, and began to unleash her final attack, in a desperate attempt to kill her most hated enemy. However, even this effort was stopped when Lancer moved forward and placed himself between the two lookalikes. This goes far enough, Saber, Avenger. I would not have you ruining my chance for a duel with Avenger, Saber. I would that you would stand down, so that I may have a chance to fight the Servant of Vengeance in a one-on-one duel. The Bloody Knight growled furiously. Imbecile. Move, lest you wish to join my father in oblivion. Saber was understanding of this desire, but shook her head. This is a personal matter, Lancer. I apologize, but my own honor demands that I fight Avenger. I see. The entire conversation ground to a halt when they heard an inhuman roar resonate across the harbor and water, and all turned to where Naruto had battled it out with Berserker. When the roar was emitted, Naruto knew that he was fucked. He knew that the explosion hadn't killed Berserker, but he had really hoped that the explosive tags would be enough to incapacitate Berserker for at least a few minutes. Apparently that was not to be the case. I need better ink, Naruto muttered. He groaned. Of all the times to leave my high-quality supplies at home. He could use Hiraishin, but he really didn't want to use it, seeing as he's already used it multiple times that night. Hiraishin was his trump card, his ultimate weapon in a sense, and he had no intentions of letting anyone understand how it works and thereby devising a suitable counter by allowing them to study it. A glimpse or two was AK ready pushing it. No, he wouldn't use Hiraishin. But there were other options. The only problem was actually standing up to Berserker long enough to implement said options. Do I have? Yes. Level 3 tags. He murmured under his breath. Naruto created his own seals, his own explosive tags. He had classified everything according to his own little system. The tags he used to blow up Berserker were level 5, capable of completely blowing apart a normal man. He had used 10 of those. Level 3 was designed to take out heavily armored targets. Things like tanks or small planes. Enough of them could theoretically demolish an entire city block. Naruto held 6 of the papers of doom in his left hand, behind his back. However, as it turned out, Berserker's target wasn't the blonde, rather, he was charging at the other battling duo. To be more specific, Mordred. Raggrh. He howled, clearly incensed by her presence. Unfortunately, his improvised weapon was neatly cut in half by Lancer's red spear. That is enough, Berserker. I will not have you interfering in this honorable duel as well. Lancer spoke, clearly miffed by Berserker's sudden interruption. Do not continue further, as I will not tolerate your transgressions. What are you doing, Lancer? Finish off Avenger, or better yet, Saber. The voice of Lancer's master wafted through the air, a slight tinge of annoyance present in its quality. I will slay Avenger. I, Dearmood Odina, swear on my honor. But please watch as I take care of this rabid dog first. Please, my lord, by my command seal, I order you, my lord, to assist Avenger and kill Saber. This caused Naruto's eyebrow to raise in surprise, as he would have assumed that Kaneth would go after the wounded servant instead. My lord? Saber is clearly the biggest threat here, if her master is capable of fighting Berserker hand-to-hand, and if she truly is King Arthur. Berserker seems to be going after Avenger, meaning that servant will not last very long. Kill Saber. Or better yet, kill her master. So I command. Naruto sighed. Well, fuck. Lancer shook his head in frustration and lashed out at Saber with his golden spear, which Saber promptly blocked with her invisible blade. I apologize, Saber. I would have preferred to fight an opponent such as you in better conditions. I bear no ill feelings towards you, Lancer, merely to your idiotic fop of a master. Be as it may be though, I really cannot have you insult my new avowed lord. He lunged forward, only to be launched backwards after blocking a swing from Berserker. Berserker, it seemed, had managed to get a hold of Kabikirabocho, plucking it out of the ground and swinging it with one hand. Seeing the Black Knight wielding a massive sword, it was enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. Slashes and cuts came down upon Avenger, who promptly fell back. Woman, we're leaving. I cannot hold against Berserker any longer, especially if my father is fighting me as well. She replied calmly. Yes, of course. Irisveal stammered. She turned and left, with Avenger fading away into red particles. The Red Knight was entering spirit form. I look forward to our next meeting, father. It'll be interesting, pitting myself against your master. She gave a bloodthirsty grin. I wonder, will he bleed as well as he fights? Saber twitched in anger. You will not touch my master. You will not look at my master with those eyes, and I will not allow you to come near him. She all but screamed, displaying more emotion than her entire fight against Avenger. Avenger merely smirked and faded away. The other servant breathed heavily, before looking up and realizing that Berserker was still there. He was still wielding Kabikirabocho. And he was staring directly at her, or appeared to be. If she were a magus, she would have cursed the root. The Black Knight roared, and charged directly at the small blonde, raising that massive blade over his head in order to deliver a killing blow. Saber braced herself for the impact, however. Said impact never came. Over to the side, Naruto smirked and formed the same hand seal from before. 6 pieces of paper, inscribed with various seals and writings, began sizzling on the side of the decapitating blade. Kabikirabocho went up in a massive cloud of smoke, fire and a deafening explosion, bigger and louder than the previous one. Berserker was immediately thrown to the ground by its sheer force, and pieces of shrapnel from the broken sword began raining down the ground. Various metallic chunks could be seen burrowed in his armor, which was dented slightly. Naturally, Berserker wasn't happy about that outcome. The damage was completely superficial, but having a sword explode in one's face certainly made a point. Did you really think that I'd just leave one of my weapons lying around, especially with the troublesome ability you possess? Naruto scoffed. I think not. Oi, Berserker's master. If you can hear me, you probably want to call off your rabid dog. Berserker gave one final roar of protest, before taking spirit form, leaving a bemused blonde magus, an annoyed sword-wielding maiden, a dumbfounded lancer, and an excited rider. Oh, and a prick and sniveling child. Naruto sighed and picked up the handle of his blade, which had a large chunk of said blade still attached to it. The rest of the sword was in tiny pieces. "Ah, I have to repair this thing now. I hate doing that," he muttered. "Do you really think that you can take on 2 opponents at once, Lancer?" Saber asked quietly. "For if you do, then, Lancer, that is enough. Retreat." "Yes, my lord." The lance-wielding servant turned to leave. "It has been an honor meeting you, young master, king of knights. I look forward to a duel with you, and I would be happy to oblige with that request." Saber replied easily, giving a firm nod of her head. With those final words, Lancer left, leaving 4 figures on the docks. My, how interesting. Ryder chuckled. "Naruto, you are certainly a man of great strength, aren't you? What exactly was your intent when you first arrived, King of Conquerors?" Saber addressed the tall man who held his chin in thought. "No idea. I don't really think about these things." Ryder replied, making Naruto chuckle at the side. Ryder's such an honest man, it made him wonder what it would be like living in his kingdom. "Saber, settle matters with Avenger first. I shall then face the victor, be that you or Avenger. Goodbye for now, King of Knights." Ryder turned and grabbed his reins. "And goodbye to you, Naruto. I hope that our next meeting is as enjoyable as this one was. Hey boy, don't you have anything nice to say?" Looking down at Waver, he noticed something. Pulling him up by his collar, it was clear he had fallen unconscious from the shock of the massive explosion. "Man, I wish he'd man up a little." Naruto grinned and Saber gave a small smile as Ryder snapped his reins. "Farewell." He flew off into the sky as if the sky was the very road. Naruto and Saber were the only ones left on the former battlefield. The suited blonde sighed and promptly collapsed from exhaustion. "Naruto." Saber ran to her master and bent over him, green eyes staring concernedly into azure ones. "Are you injured? Tired?" The spiky blonde grinned, although it was very weary. "I'm fine, Saber. Just a little tired." He got back up, wincing from the slight twinge of pain that jolted through his entire body. Berserker was frightfully strong. I'm certain that I could have not stood against him for much longer, not without using Hiraishin or some of my more destructive seals. He sighed. I had to resort to baiting him into a trap, and even then he shrugged off level 3 like it was nothing. Saber sighed and shook her head slightly. "At least, you're all right. He didn't inflict any lasting injuries on you, did he?" Naruto shook his head. "The worst that I got was a cut on my arm, and that's healing up right now." He lifted said arm, to reveal that a rapidly fading laceration could be seen through a tear in his sleeve. "I'm just tired, is all." Saber stood stock still for a while, bangs shadowing her eyes, before she spoke again. "You idiot, pushing yourself to the limit like that," she murmured before sighing once more, and running over to support Naruto when it was apparent that he would keel over once more. "You idiot." The blonde muttered an inaudible series of words, before speaking clearly once more. "I'm a terrible man, Saber, to make you worry like this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for making you worry." The other blonde shook her head in discontent. "Don't apologize. You might be an idiot, but at the very least, I'm your master." "Nah," Naruto muttered. Yes, you are." The servant and Magus began walking away, the tall figure being supported by the shorter one. "Let's just go home, Saber." "Yes, Naruto." And they left. A door opened in the Uzumaki household, the front door, and 2 figures stumbled through said threshold. The taller figure shut the door, walked over to a nearby futon and immediately collapsed in the futon. The smaller one sighed and sat by the futon, staring at the taller one's features. Saber was distraught, seeing her master in such a state, when usually he was strong, hale and hearty. It disturbed her. She could safely say that her master was one of the strongest people that she had ever known, unwavering in his ideals and conviction. To fight against a servant was no small thing, especially something as powerful as Berserker. And yet, she trusted Naruto to fight Berserker, was confident that he'd be able to defeat him even. She could trust him to stay alive, for she knew that the spiky-haired blonde would be able to, after knowing him for over 3 weeks, after fighting with him, eating with him. Naruto was the type of person that would never back down, that would continue fighting on, even if his destruction was assured. He would continue fighting on, and he would most likely attempt to rip his opponent's throat out with his own teeth in his dying moments. "Brave fool," Saber whispered, a slight smile on her face, as she gazed at Naruto's slumbering expression. Yet, she couldn't help but admire his resolve, his willingness to fight on. Such a person, she couldn't help but respect him. The servant knelt next to her master's head, and laid a surprisingly gentle hand on his forehead. "Sleep well, Naruto. You fought bravely today." The hand lowered as the servant of the sword continued her vigil over Naruto's sleeping form. In a separate location, a crystal ball gleamed, displaying images of two knights, one blue and one red. It was a dank space, dark that surpassed normal black. The faint screaming and moaning of the damned could be heard, eerie noises of those pained souls drifting through the tangible darkness. The only source of illumination was that crystal ball, about the size of a ball of yarn. "Awesome, awesome, awesome!" A red-haired young man gleefully shouted, clearly excited about recent events. "That was so cool. Did you see that guy blow up the other guy? And that massive sword. So cool." The other figure was hunched over the crystal ball, visibly trembling. "Sir, it has come true. My dream has become realized. What I have been striving for has been realized." The holy maiden, a gaunt and pallid face, was tearing up, tears of elation. What? She who was once abandoned by God, annihilated in disgrace. But now, she has been resurrected. It's a miracle. It was because of my faithful wishes. Those allowed her to be reborn. Ryunosuke had no idea what was going on, but he could understand the man whom he admired, Bluebeard's current state of delight. Also, though he and Bluebeard have not been together for very long, Bluebeard can always reveal impressive ideas even at times of great distress. A new challenger to the world, a murderer. The strange man whom Ryunosuke worshipped was a sadistic artist. Therefore, to Ryunosuke, Bluebeard's happiness, whatever may have happened to him, must have been a good thing, and it was certainly worth anticipating. For some strange reason, I'm beginning to get excited as well, Sir Bluebeard. The other's face twisted in an evil sneer. There is a fake though. A copy, not fit to wear the visage of that holy maiden. Such impudence. It must be punished. Castor shook his hair loose as he simultaneously wept and cried. He clasped the crystal tightly with both hands as he pressed his forehead against its icy surface, his frenzied eyes staring at the face of the young woman, the noble knight in blue that wielded an invisible blade. "Oh, maiden, my holy chaste virgin, I will be with you soon. No matter what, please wait for me." "Saber, what is war?" the blonde man asked suddenly, as the pair walked across a green field, of nothing but grass and shrubbery. "I don't comprehend the question, master. People don't kill people, monsters kill people. War is a monster. Greed is a monster. Does that mean that I'm a monster too? Ah, but heroes kill monsters. Monsters kill men, men kill heroes. Enough, master. You are not a monster. No matter what you believe. I do not believe it, no, I cannot accept that. Have you not saved those villages? Are you not fighting to protect?" Naruto merely smiled wistfully and looked at the cloudy sky. "Ah, but didn't you know? Monsters kill men. Do the ends justify the means then? I digress. To be perfectly honest, bloodshed is still bloodshed, no matter how you try to justify it." "Is that true then?" The pair watched the stormy sky, thunder rumbling and lightning flashing, and a gentle patter of rain falling from the heavens, as if some great god was crying. "Saber, who am I? Am I a monster? A man? A magus? Who am I? Your name is Naruto Uzumaki. And you are my master, as I am your blade, you are my wielder." Kuritsugu frowned, and idly continued smoking a cigarette as he continued pondering his current predicament. His problem being numerous things, several of which were extremely pressing and would most certainly completely derail his plans. First of all, his original catalyst was stolen. By Zelrech of all people. Zelrech. The old vampire left a fucking note of all things, apologizing for the inconvenience, and etc. To complete the image, he left a small drawing of a chibi Zelrech giving a peace symbol. Old man Oct was pissed. It had taken quite a lot of time and effort to even locate Avalon, and then the greatest troll in the history of the Nasuverse had to go and steal it. Fortunately, the Einsburns had a backup. However, much to Kuritsugu's dismay, he got the servant class Avenger, meaning that there were no class benefits for his servant, Mordred. Kuritsugu was irritated at this turn of events, but this wasn't what was bothering him. No, what Kuritsugu was currently worried about were the events that had just occurred at the docks. To be more specific, a certain magical blonde, Naruto Uzumaki, the Magus killer, had heard of Naruto, heard of his various exploits. Like him, Naruto made a living by hunting sealing designates, dead apostles, and the like. He was known for not failing a single mission, for succeeding in each and every single one, and he was also known to have developed his own brand of magecraft. However, unlike Kuritsugu Emiya, the blonde never, ever accepted missions that were morally ambiguous in nature, or were completely against his particular code of justice, only accepting the ones that involved saving the innocent, or killing threats to humanity. This caused Kuritsugu to scoff at his actions, dismissing Naruto for his naivety. Unknown to Kuritsugu, Naruto knew death all too well. And, unknown to Kuritsugu, the blonde Magus was far from naive and innocent. In fact, he could be called the very opposite of innocent. The blonde rolled around on his futon, muttering something about how someone was talking about him, before going back to sleep. Kuritsugu Emiya was concerned now, for not only was there an unknown factor in this war, he hated unknowns. Said factor was extremely powerful in his own right. The Magus killer had a clean line of shot on Lancer's master, until Berserker interrupted, causing him to switch his focus, thereby allowing him to witness the entire fight between servant and master. It was disheartening to see. Not only had the unpredictable blonde summoned King Arthur as Saber, he was capable of going head-to-head with Berserker and winning. Not to mention, Naruto didn't play fair, luring Berserker into a hastily constructed trap, and again shortly afterwards. The blonde fought like a soldier, not a magus or a knight. And that was what worried Kuritsugu the most, to have this unforeseen opponent in the war that he had to worry about, and to have him be so powerful and with such a different mindset than that of a magus. It was most certainly not a good thing. Not to mention, the blonde was a magician, apprenticed to Zelrach, user of the second magic. All of these facts combined, meant that Naruto Uzumaki's danger rating had just gone above 11 in Kuritsugu's mind. And so, the Magus killer began plotting contingencies and plans to deal with this new element. For his wish, for the sake of his dream, he would do whatever it took to make that dream a reality. The Magus killer continued pondering this thought, safe within the boundaries of Einsberg Castle. He continued scheming and plotting, even as his wife looked on, concerned for his well-being, even as Avenger, who was dressed in quite possibly one of the skimpiest outfits that Kuritsugu had ever had the misfortune to see, scoffed a little and continued wandering about said castle. Eventually, he came to a conclusion. Uzumaki must be taken out first, if our plans are to succeed. All others, it doesn't matter. Saber's master must die, tonight. He would do anything to ensure that his wish would be granted. That was who he was after all. His original plan would have to be adjusted, to deal with this new variable, but that was acceptable. Maya, Irisville, get ready, we're moving out tonight. Over in the Uzumaki household, a spiky-haired blonde was waking up. Fucking son, he murmured as he squinted his eyes in an attempt to shield them from those burning rays. I swear, I will destroy you, you fiend. He spoke loudly as he sat up, rubbing his aching back. One night's sleep had proven to be enough to recover somewhat from the stresses of the previous night, but apparently his sore muscles would take a little longer to fully heal. Naruto sighed when he noticed a kneeling figure slumbering near his futon, sleeping while keeping watch over him. As it turned out, Saber hadn't gone to sleep, instead, choosing to keep a silent vigil over him during the night. By the looks of things, she had basically stayed by his side until sheer exhaustion took hold. Honestly, she didn't need to worry so much. Naruto muttered, I can take care of myself, you know. And then, the blonde magus felt some guilt at making his servant worry so. I'll have to make it up to her, somehow. He sighed. For now though, I better make breakfast. Saber awoke to the smell of cooking food. She yawned and stretched in a manner that most would liken to that of a lazy feline that was sunbathing, before blinking in confusion. She was not by her master's side. In fact, she wasn't even in the same position. She was lying on a futon, specifically, her master's futon. The blonde servant absent-mindedly noted that it was quite warm and cozy, before she returned to reality. Naruto, are you cooking breakfast? Yup, I am. Just stay there, I'll be back shortly. The green-eyed blonde sighed as she relaxed in the beams of sunlight that were warm and inviting, and did her level best to calm down from the slight panic that had overtaken her. Moments later, Naruto entered the room, holding a tray of food. A standard, Western-style breakfast with bacon, toast, fried eggs and a glass of orange juice. Breakfast in bed, Saber. Enjoy. Thank you, Naruto. But, you didn't need to go this far. Saber blinked in utter confusion. Saber, what did I say about? My apologies, she squeaked. I was just surprised, that's all. Naruto set the tray of food on the ground. You shouldn't have stayed up all night, you know. It's bad for your health. As a servant I can handle more challenging environmental conditions than a normal human. You know that, Naruto. Still though, it can't have been comfortable. The blonde sighed. There was no need to safeguard me all night. It was unnecessary. He paused in contemplation. Didn't we have a talk about this before? Saber's face fell. Ah, I appreciate the gesture though. Thank you for doing so. A sincere smile graced his lips, causing Saber's cheeks to heat slightly as she turned her head away, clearly embarrassed about her body's involuntary reaction. You're welcome? Naruto smiled winningly at his servant, before gesturing to the tray of food. Well, aren't you going to eat? Thank you, Naruto. Ma, don't thank me yet. You spent the whole night up, which means that you are going to lie in bed and eat, then actually get some sleep. I don't. Are we clear, Saber? Yes. And so, Saber reluctantly allowed herself to be pampered by Naruto for a short period of time. Or not really as reluctant as she would have been 3 weeks ago, but I digress. At any rate, the servant of the sword allowed herself to relax for a short while, trying to ease the tension out of her muscles. It was nice having someone around who would cater to your every need, she decided. More importantly, it was nice having a friend around who she could talk to. And so, servant and master began their day in this fashion as the sun steadily rose, a day filled with promises. What is our plan of action today, Naruto? Saber asked questioningly, sitting at the same table and sipping the cup of orange juice, while the blonde in question was idly drawing a ceiling matrix for one of his Hiraishin kunai. A clone was creating more explosive tags, refurbishing losses. Naruto was a little OCD about his supplies. Just a little. Plan of action? Naruto sighed. Well, we could check out Waver Velvet's place of residence. That was the one place we didn't go to last night. Saber scowled in slight annoyance. Very well, though. Is something wrong, Saber? That writer character. He seems like. Naruto sighed. Oi, Saber. You can't just say that you dislike him, you know. Alexander seems to be a man of brutal honesty and great courage. He is a moron. Saber deadpanned. What kind of servant blatantly announces their identity like that? Granted, I inadvertently did so as well, but that was. The mood immediately became subdued, somber. Mordred, Naruto muttered. Mordred is going to be the biggest threat. I concur, Naruto. If it is Mordred, then. This war has become exponentially more difficult. The blonde magus pulled at his hair in sheer frustration. Goddamn it all. First we have the fucking king of heroes summoned as archer by one of the strongest magi in the war. Then we have that crazy berserker that could take 2 level 3 to the face and live. And now we have Mordred. Mordred of all people. Why did their backup have to be Mordred? Naruto paused to take a breath before continuing his rant. At least, Mordred isn't at 100%. If she was, this would be even harder than it already is. More silence, until Saber spoke. Is that your plan of action then? No, it isn't. Not anymore. A good thing that came about from last night is that we learned the abilities and identities of most of the servants in the war, and their respective masters. Ryder and Velvet aren't that much of a threat, however, Emiya and Mordred. They have to be taken out first. He sighed, and raked a hand through his golden mane, momentarily straightening it before it spiked up again, and began to speak once more. The problem is that they're situated in a castle of all things, making a frontal assault idiotic. No, Saber, would you hate me if I told you that? The servant sighed. You are going to do something that is the exact opposite of chivalry again, aren't you? Mordred is a serious threat, even when she is not allowed to use one arm, and Emiya is a cunning opponent, an even more potent threat. We're going to ambush them then, when they come out of the castle. Saber blinked. Why would they come out of the castle? Because, in order to heal Avenger's arm, they're going to target Lancer and Lancer's master, in order to treat Avenger's unhealable wound by ensuring that the cause of said wound is slain, meaning that they'll have to leave the castle at some point, and at that time is when we'll strike. I have no objections, Naruto. It is necessary. Avenger is a threat that must be eliminated. I do have one request, Naruto. I wish to fight Avenger in a duel, face my inner demons honorably. Will you allow me this? Naruto sighed, and grabbed a cup of tea. Will you win? You know me, Naruto. The blonde's lips twitched upwards into a wry smile. In that case, do whatever you wish. Just win, that is the one thing that I ask of you. Of course. Have you no faith in me? You know me, Saber. What do you think? While all of this was going on, Tokiomi Tasaka and Kirei Kotomine were making their own plans. Currently the schemers were situated in Tokiomi's estate, the red-suited man reclining on a comfortable chair while his companion shuffled nervously in a corner. That's Saber. That will be trouble. Tokiomi spoke, breaking the frigid silence. Her and her master. To think that someone could summon the legendary King of Knights, as Saber, and then proceed to fight a servant head-to-head and not lose outright, and succeed in pushing it back. Kirei had used his assassin to spy on the masters and servants last night. Rather, it was a manifestation of an aspect of assassin, a clone. Gilgamesh had killed nothing but a clone on the first night, causing the other masters to believe assassin had been eliminated, when in actuality, the servant was hale and hearty. He shall have to be eliminated then, if he is a magician on top of that, and to match Berserker in physical combat, even if Berserker would have overpowered him. The red-suited, elegant man murmured under his breath. He and his servant, they shall have to go first. Very well then. Kirei Kotomine replied curtly. Assassin shall dispatch him then, as soon as we find his base of operations. Good. Even a man such as he cannot hope to survive an assault from the servant of silent murder. Even if he can face Berserker head-to-head, he can still fall to the knife in his back. Unfortunately, it would not be as easy as that. Assassin was an assassin, true, but Naruto was by profession. Well, he was an assassin of assassins, if anything. Therefore, killing him would not be as simple as that, as Tokiomi and Kirei were about to learn. You have to feel sorry for him. Assassin, I mean. Kirei Kotomine was in a state of excitement or curiosity. He was wondering, just what was Kuritsugu Emiya's reason for existing, and he was also wondering, just why on earth are you so strong? Naruto Uzumaki? Why did you strive for strength? What is your purpose in life? This distorted man would get his answers, one way or another. One way or another. There was another in this war who had drawn his interest. Naruto and Saber were, once again, on patrol. This had become a custom for the duo, a tradition, if it were. It was a habit, and in an assassin's line of work, habits were bad. However, this one wasn't, seeing as the time from which the blondes left from their household varied from day to day, and the route they traveled also varied. It was midday in Fuyuki City, another peaceful day. The populace completely unaware of the destruction that had occurred the previous night, unaware that there was a war raging beneath this peaceful surface. Unaware that 8 masters were ripping at one another's throats. The church had covered up the destruction at the docks effectively, spinning lies, weaving tales to conceal the nature of the Holy Grail War and preserve the secrecy of magecraft. It was just another day. Naruto sighed in a small amount of content and bliss as he leaned against a wall and crossed his arms, relishing the small amount of sunlight that shone down on his body, basking in its warmth. It was hard to imagine that just last night, he was involved in a conflict of the supernatural. Hard to imagine that he had been close to death the previous night. Berserker could have killed him, almost too easily. The maddened servant was faster, stronger, and more skilled than he was, which spoke volumes about the Black Knight's skill, considering Naruto was one of the best warriors of his era. If the battle had continued as it had, there would be one less spiky-haired blonde on the planet. Fortunately for Naruto, he didn't fight fair. As Shikamaru Nara once said, that spiky blonde-haired blue-eyed bastard? In combat? He's a true ninja then. He doesn't fight fair. Truth be told, Naruto was actually holding back a fair bit against Berserker, but he sensed that the Black Knight was also withholding the majority of her. Nah, definitely a guy, with that roar, power. Berserker would be a ridiculously tough opponent. However, in comparison to that king of heroes. While Berserker is a powerful unknown, Archer is an even more powerful known variable. And then there is Avenger, who is essentially the antithesis to King Arthur, and it just so happens that King Arthur is my servant. Avenger must go first, which is why Naruto was on patrol with his more petite servant to monitor enemy movements. He could have used shadow clones to do so, however. The backlash from the memories put me in a coma far too many times for my liking. And so, we find our protagonist in the situation that he is currently in, basking in the sun like some overgrown house cat. He glanced over to his right side, where Saber was standing, lowering long lashes over brilliant emerald eyes. Motes of dust could be seen floating in the brilliant beams of that ball of incandescent gas, light playing along her petite figure, along her half-smile, along her lidded eyes. Naruto felt fingers brush against his own tanned hand, before said fingers jerked away. He sighed. Saber, the blonde magus quietly mused, was a unique woman. He looked at her face once more, at her almost melancholy smile. Sadly, as much as he would like to relish in the feeling of companionship once more, they had business to attend to. Saber, do you see that? The blonde frowned. Saber tensed as she slowly glanced in the direction her master was staring in, sneaking a peek at a secluded alleyway where a slumped figure was barely discernible. Yes, but I failed to see how this could be relevant to the war, Naruto. Oh, but it is all too relevant, Saber. All too relevant. The blonde stood, brushed specks of dust off of his suit and began to walk to the alley. Saber blinked in confusion before following Naruto. She would trust him, she had trusted him in the past and the spiky-haired magus hadn't not delivered. Why shouldn't she trust him now? And that was the crux of the matter, wasn't it? She trusted him, a slumped-over man, dressed in a shabby hoodie and jeans, with white hair, disfigured face, breathing laboriously. It was clear that he was in pain, crippling, agonizing pain. Naruto shook his head as he beheld the fallen figure. Really, the things that you have done to yourself. Was that really necessary, Karyamatu? The man who was sprawled on the ground lifted a weary head, and glared at the well-dressed blonde, in anger and contempt. You know nothing of my life, or why this was necessary. Is there a point? Why are you here, Naruto Uzumaki, master of Saber? Naruto shrugged. I myself do not know. He sighed and knelt next to Karya, who emitted another pain-filled grunt. You are obviously suffering. Dear God, what have you done? Does it matter? Why would you care? A light patter of footsteps behind both masters alerted Naruto to his servant's presence. Is it wrong to care about your fellow man? As if you could know what it is to care about someone. Karya muttered sourly. The blonde-haired man said nothing, although he did prevent Saber from venting her frustrations against the Matu master. I see. Who is it that you're battling for? What? It is, isn't it? The reason you're fighting. What are you saying? Karya murmured, confused. Karya Matu, last scion to the Matu family. Estranged for many years, you left Fuyuki City and just came back 1 year ago at your father's request. You turned your back on the heritage of a magus. So, why would you come back? Better yet, why would you compete in a war like this? Burning blue eyes fixated on Karya's dead eye and tired, pain-filled orb. Why are you a master, Karya Matu? How do you know this much? The shabbily dressed man asked, trembling in fear or rage. You know this much. If you think that I would go into a battle without any information as to my opponent's capabilities, without intelligence, then you are underestimating me from the get-go. Naruto sighed, and raked a hand through his spiky mane of hair. I had gathered information on the prospective masters, you know. Hey, ha. Karya began laughing, chuckling, almost maniacally. You know this much, and you still know nothing. What are you saying? Naruto murmured cautiously. It is obvious, isn't it? No human, no sane human would disfigure himself or herself like that willingly, not without just cause. And you had given up on your family. His eyes narrowed. Blackmail? Hostages? I've met that old worm before, disgusting experience. He's not human, in any way, shape or form. Hey, you got it. I never wanted any of this, but I had no choice. There's a girl that I had to save. Girl? Not a wife, you're not married, and there is no indication. Illegitimate or adopted daughter then, or a sister. She's essentially a daughter to me. Karya muttered. I had to save her from that worm. He promised to let her go, if I won the grail. Naruto sighed. You must love her very much, if you're willing to kill yourself in this manner for her sake. I have to win, and you're in my way. Karya sighed. I'm sorry for this, but it must be done. Beer. Karya froze when he felt the tip of a knife dig into his throat. held by the blonde man who was acting casual not too long ago. Finish that sentence and we shall see who is faster. My blade or your servant? Naruto hissed in cold fury. This was not the casual man who idly chatted with the Matu's master, who was relaxed and unconcerned about meeting an enemy Magus. This was a professional assassin. A killer, who had no qualms about killing. All the masks, the illusions, had fallen. Kariya felt despair, for Naruto had moved much faster than he could perceive. Even if he could summon Berserker, he would be bleeding out on the ground with a cut throat before the Servant of Madness could counter the blonde's movement. But he would fight back, because Sakura would suffer if he didn't. He had to save Sakura, he had to. Therefore, Kariya was shocked when the knife moved away from his throat, and was swiftly resheathed in some unknown, to him, location. Man, you're serious about it, aren't you? You really love her, Naruto mused, looking almost wistful? Well, who am I to deprive a man of the desire to save his loved ones? The blonde man began walking away, with Saber looking on stoically. Wait, you're just going to leave me alone? You know, I could stab you in the back, right? Naruto sighed, and turned back. You know, once, I was in a position like the one that you're in right now. He said, softly. I'm not going to go into details, but it ended on an extremely sour note for all of the parties involved. Seeing that same situation unfold right now, it makes me a little sad. The blue-eyed man turned and continued walking. Besides, you seem like a fairly decent guy. It's a shame you were born into a shitty family, but what can you do? I can still stab you in the back. If you think you can live with the repercussions, go on. Just know, I promised someone that I would live on. I will not die quietly. Kariya went silent at this, for while he could sick Berserker on Naruto, the blonde master had literally held his life in his hands, and let him go. While before, he would have just plain killed the man to be one step closer to freeing Sakura. He wasn't lying when he said he knows my situation. And wait, I know that this is rather sudden, but can you help me with a matter? The dying man gritted out. The crest worms implanted in his body were burning, eating away at his brain and nervous system. It was excruciating pain. Oh, and what is this that you would like assistance with? You seem like a good person, and you know of my family. Of your family, not about your family. What of it? Well, you're still better than that piece of shit that's my father. Kariya trailed off. Anyway, that old vampire. Do you know, he's lived well over 500 years now? Yes. Naruto blinked in confusion. What of it? I admit that is an unusually long time, but why begin there? Do you know how he stays alive? He has familiars, worms. Bloodworms. The blonde magus shuddered in revulsion. Those things? They freaked the crap out of me when I first knew about them, from my earlier learnings in magecraft. Fucking Zelrech and his trolling. He's composed of them. To be more exact, his body is composed of his familiars, a conglomerate of worms with a special appetite for human flesh and blood that combine themselves to take a human form. Naruto felt his eyes widen. Oh God, he implanted those things in you in order to simulate magical circuits, didn't he? Guess who else he did it to? The blonde took a step back, face completely shocked and horrified, before becoming confusingly calm, a sort of tranquil rage embedding itself into his mentality. How old is she? 5 years old. At this proclamation, if looks could kill, one Zokin Matu could find himself staring down double barrels of blue death. I see. He implanted those things inside of a little girl. How distasteful. And if words could drip venom. No, this was ice chilled at absolute zero, cold enough to freeze the black flames of Amaterasu. Someone was going to die tonight. As much as the very concept sickens me, what are you telling me this for? I want to make a deal with you. You seem to be a decent guy. You have no proof of this. I am an enemy, you do realize. Your enemy in this Holy Grail war. Why would you ask me for assistance? Kariya laughed again. You're admitting it. That immediately makes you more trustworthy than most of the other magi in this stupid war. I don't even care about a cup, I just want to save Sakura. Hey, I'm so pathetic I need to go to a total stranger for help. That's so low of me, but please, I beg you. Just save her, please. Naruto sighed and closed his eyes, pinching the bridge of his nose. Are you going to trust me then? Trust a complete stranger, a person who was your servant's combatant just last night. You shouldn't trust a potential enemy. Where else can I go? Who else can I go to? It is stupid, foolish, but I still beg you, please save Sakura, please. Naruto knelt down to the almost sobbing man, and placed a hand on his shoulders. I'd call you an idiot for placing your trust in a person you have no right to place trust in, regardless though. I'll save her. This I swear, Kari Yamato. You have my word, and I never break a promise. So long as you rescue her from my bastard of an uncle. Desperate men do desperate things in times of need, huh? I like you, Kari Yamato. If you are willing to go this far to save one girl. Most people wouldn't have that kind of mental fortitude or willpower. Quite commendable. Will you do it then? Will you save her? I said I would, didn't I? Naruto walked out of the alley, hands in pockets and a scowl on his face. His mood had been severely dampened by this occurrence. Saber walked slightly behind him. Naruto, are you going to help him then? He is an enemy master, you do realize. Saber spoke, a disapproving tone in her voice. Saber, those eyes. They weren't the eyes of a frightened man, of an angered man, of a calculating man. Tell me, where else did you see those eyes? When here was no reply, the blonde-haired man continued. Those eyes that are filled with nothing but determination and the will to move on. He reminds you of you, doesn't he? A man who sacrificed everything for the sake of his loved ones. Yes, that man, that Kari Yamato has no regrets, doesn't he? Why are you helping him? You and your hero complex. This man could be lying to you, you do realize. Because no child deserves to go through the hell that Kariya told me that Sakura was going through. Because Kariya seems to be a good man, even if he did order that black thing to attack us. Because, by saving this, Sakura, we can gain a prospective ally, earn his goodwill. And because I have been trained to discern whether or not a person is lying. He had no tells, he did not give any outward appearance of deception through his body language and manner of speaking. He wasn't lying, Saber. And even if he was, it wouldn't hurt to investigate, wouldn't it? I knew that you had an actual, pragmatic reason for this action. Saber sighed and put a hand over her eyes. You know me well, Saber. True, very well then, I suppose we'll both be taking the role of a knight today. After all, in the stories, don't the knights try to rescue the princess? Saber chuckled at this. Why, I suppose it does. After all, monsters kill men, heroes kill monsters. Men kill heroes. Today, we shall be killing a monster, to be more specific, a worm, at the behest of this poor man. Naruto completed Saber's half-finished statement and began to walk faster. Let's go, Saber. We have things that must be attended to, places that must be examined, information that must be gathered. Another day then. The green-eyed woman finished. Another day. Hey. Kari Yamato wheezed from where he was slumped against a wall, in that same dirty alleyway. Fuyuki City had a lot of those. Ah, did I make a mistake? In trusting Sakura's safety to that shifty dude? He thought about the question for a while before shrugging a little bit. Nope, probably not. That guy. I don't know why, but I get this feeling that I can trust him. It's just a feeling, but it's better than the ones that I have of my stupid brother and uncle. Yeah, if it's that guy. He'll save Sakura. No doubt about it. After all, anyone who can make that kind of scary expression can almost certainly deal with that old vampire. He'll save Sakura. I just know he can. If it's that person, he can do it. Kari Yamato was a desperate man, clinging on to a crumbling ladder, seeking the tiniest rays of hope in the hell his life had become. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision, based on the blonde's personality and fighting prowess that had caused him to ask for said blonde's assistance in this matter. A desperate plan, made by a man so desperate he would work with his enemies if it meant Sakura Matu's well-being. You better kill that monster, Naruto.
That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, share and do comments.